With 2018 ending, we look forward to 2019, and most video game journalists, YouTubers and such are putting out their top 10 lists of the year. However, I'm a little bit behind and I want to be slightly different, so here are my top 10 games of 2017. First, before we go into the top 10 list, I want to give some honourable mentions. These are games that probably could have made the list, but I didn't even have time to play them enough. I haven't got around to playing them, but I still recognise that they're potentially good, or was just off of the top 10 list for me personally.
What took you so long? Had to catch a train, love.
All the gods will be dead, and the warriors of Valhalla, people everywhere. Senua, prepare yourself for Ragnarok.
But anyway, let's move on to the main 10, with number 10, Nier Automata. Having really only played this recently, it could have potentially been higher on this list. But Platinum brings us a highly stylised, yet fun, action game in a similar vein to Devil May Cry and Bayonetta. The game also combines other gameplay sections from other genres, adding some variety to the overall experience. This coupled with an interesting narrative that is surprisingly deep and makes you think. Number 9, Yakuza 0. The Yakuza series has always been on my radar, but I've never really got into it, and I don't know for the life of me why. Yakuza 0 was the first main title I actually sat down and played myself, and what I found was impressive. The 80s and authentic Japanese setting at times made me feel like I was walking around the streets of Tokyo. It's just a shame, having played this game, I'm going to have to play all the other ones, and there are a lot of Yakuza games out there. And unfortunately I don't have a lot of spare time these days. But nonetheless, the series, with its over-the-top action, is a delight to play. Number 8, Hollow Knight. I was really impressed with Hollow Knight. This little indie title is very atmospheric, and the art style stands out. Whilst yes, it's mainly dull and grey, but nonetheless all the insects have a cute feel about them, and this combined with platforming Metroidvania style exploration made it a joy to play. Number 7, Prey. Prey was an interesting title. At first I showed no interest in the game. Obviously I assumed it was from the original series Prey, but no, this was actually a complete, well, reboot. Almost a different game series in all honesty. And as a result it should have been called something else in my opinion, as carrying the Prey title probably damaged the game's publicity. Nonetheless, exploring Talos 1 and discovering the mysteries of the Typhon was a thrilling experience and brought back vibes of both Bioshock and System Shock. In a way it could be seen as a spiritual successor. Number 6, Horizon Zero Dawn. Now this may come as a surprise, me putting this as number 6. To be honest, this would probably be top 5 in most people's books, and to be honest, they're not wrong. Horizon Zero Dawn is a wonderful game with a fantastic lore set behind the story, amazing gameplay, and the graphical prowess of the game are nothing short of amazing. However, for me personally, and the reason it's slightly down on the list, is unfortunately I didn't get on with Aloy as a character herself. Now this is purely subjective, I just personally found her a little bit bland at times, as well as some of the characters she interacts with. In all honesty, the backstory of Horizon Zero Dawn I found a much more interesting narrative, but nonetheless it is a wonderful game, and if you own a PlayStation 4 then you should definitely do yourself a favour and try it out. Number 5, Injustice 2. Some people may be surprised to see me put a fighting game so high, but nonetheless Injustice 2 hooked me from the start. NetherRealm games have always caught my eye when it comes to fighting games, and Injustice 2 was no different. In fact, it may be one of my favourite NetherRealm games out there. It's definitely one I've put the most time into. With a ton of DC characters to learn, it's a game made for both comic book fans and fighting game fans. In fact, it actually got me interested in learning some of the background behind some of the DC characters that are a little bit less well known. It is also one of the rare fighting games that you can spend a ton of hours on and not actually have to play online. You can do a lot of the stuff solo. Okay, you're playing against the AI, but the challenges can keep you going for a long time. This, coupled with local or online multiplayer, makes it a fighting game with a ton of content. Number 4, Resident Evil 7. I was surprised to see the Resident Evil franchise go into first person, but that being said, when the Resident Evil games tend to get a little bit stale, Capcom mix it up This can be seen in Resident Evil 4 as it went from the fixed camera angles of the first few games to a third-person perspective, and now they've gone from a third-person action shooter point of view to something a little bit more personal with a first-person view. The setting as well, with the Baker family being the main antagonists of this game, make it quite a claustrophobic experience. And I'm pleased to say it's probably one of my favourite Resident Evil games to date, only equalled by Resident Evil 1 and maybe Resident Evil 4. Nonetheless, the setting, being in the sticks of America, bring horror vibes back to the series, with the Baker family turning into monstrous creatures. I got flashbacks of The Evil Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and more. It also coupled in DLC which brought back returning characters from the series, which makes it well worth playing if you're a Resident Evil fan. Don't let the first person view put you off. Number 3. The Evil Within 2. I was one of the rare people who actually kind of liked The Evil Within, the first game. It was a mess, it wasn't perfect by any means, but I enjoyed it in its own little way. The Evil Within 2 tends to fix a lot of the issues with The Evil Within. It has a more cohesive story, while some may say it's simpler, in a way it is a lot more easier to follow. The combat and gameplay has been vastly improved, and the pseudo open world areas means you can tackle opponents how you see fit. Also, I do have a very soft spot for the character of Sebastian, and while some of the dialogue is a little bit disjointed in places, the whole experience was nonetheless endearing to me, and it was a game I was pleasantly surprised with. Ironically, when it comes to my games of the year, a lot of the games that surprise me tend to get bumped up on the list when they surpass my expectation. Number 2. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, a disclaimer here, I played it on the Wii U. Breath of the Wild did come out on Switch and Wii U, and both versions are pretty much identical, and they both provide an excellent experience. Whilst the story is not really anything to write home about, it's no in-depth story epic, it gives you a Zelda sandbox that you can get lost in, spending hours just wandering around, doing your own thing, finding temples, climbing mountains. Nothing is really off limits in this game. And again, it was a game that kind of surpassed my expectation. If you're a fan of the Zelda franchise, then you'll definitely be pleased with it, and it's probably considered one of the best games on both the Wii U and the Switch. And finally, our number 1 pick is Persona 5. My experience with the Persona series started with Persona 3, watching my brother play it through, and then him going on to Persona 4. It wasn't until Persona 5 that I decided to actually dive headlong into the game, controller in hand. And I wasn't disappointed. The Scooby Gang antics of the Phantom Thieves in this incredible tale made it a joy to play. Whilst the gameplay is pretty standard in terms of JRPGs, the presentation of this game is gorgeous. Everything that Atlas and the developers have done, from the characters, sound design, to even the menus, is all dripping with style. This, coupled with another endearing story, made it the game I enjoyed the most in 2017. But anyway, those were my top 10 games of 2017. Remember, this list is subjective, these are just my personal opinions, yours may differ, and in fact if yours do differ, I'd love to hear what your favourite games of 2017 were. So leave a comment down below, and until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you my top 10 games of 2017, and wishing you all a happy new year. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.